Hey guys, welcome back to Within the Cauldron. We are
Hello.
here to talk about some spooky things. And we have Chrissy here, Amy, we're your hosts.
Hello.
And then we have a couple members from our group Within the Cauldron on Facebook. And we have B2,
Hello.
we have Tiffany,
Hi.
and we have Jody.
Hello.
So, we're going to tell some scary stories, true scary stories, from experience that we have had in working places, places that we have visited, places that has happened to us, in our home, on TikTok. So, first, we're going to start off with Nick. He is going to show us a video. This video, I think, is like 3 months ago. And just watch, and he's going to explain with Amy what happened. And then we'd love to hear your comments.
Device. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Did that doll just move?
Yes. It just leaned forward.
Is it upset that we stopped talking to it? It was very sweet though. But I don't know if it was a house spirit either, because it's like, how are you? I like music, and I normally...
So that is a doll that I purchased here in town. There's a place called the Brass Armadillo. It's a consignment shop, and they had a booth that was run by a paranormal group that they were selling haunted dolls, and they had other oddities and things like that. But I was skeptical. It was $10, and I'm sitting there like, you know what? It's an antique doll. It's $10. It had a cute little tag on it. It was like there was something on the doll, but I wasn't sure what. So I buy this and take it home. And I did some energy scanning on it and was like, okay, there is something on the doll, but I wasn't sure what. So I put it in my cupboard and set up a spirit trap on it just so that it wasn't giving me any problems. Well, a couple weeks go by and I start having, more paranormal activity in my house than normal. I had something that was running across my bed that was like probably about as heavy as a cat, except it was walking on my bed on two legs. It was like a toddler running across my bed. Creepy as hell. No, thank you. And then knocks on the window. My cupboard was knocking. The cupboard the doll was in was knocking. And mind you, this isn't a spirit trap, so it should not have done anything. And so me and Amy got to talking, and I was like, hey, look, I got this creepy doll, and it's been doing some weird stuff. And I had just gotten a spirit box that Amy sent me, and we're like, well, we were on TikTok on a live, and we're like, okay, let's mess around and do a seance. And we did for, about 30 minutes?
Yeah, I think I had the ghost box on my end on my phone. It was the same one that I sent you, and we were talking to it through there, and it was giving us like intelligent answers, talking to us the whole time. And then I think like I think as the doll moved, or right after the doll moved. And then I think I think as the doll moved, or right after the doll moved. And then I think
we have feedback from somewhere.
Is it still echoing?
Nope.
Okay, so right as the doll moved, or right after, I saw something black move in the corner of my eye, crawling on my floor, and I'm like, whoa, is that a cat or something? Like, what is that? And I was talking to Nico during the live. It wasn't recorded during that moment, but I started, and the baby woke up right before that doll moved. And that's why I went to get the doll. I turned off the ghost box, said goodbye to it, and then things started happening. And that's when you hear me, oh, maybe it's mad at us because we stopped talking to it. I also have very sensitive child with abilities that can see, and I've had children, one of my children predict the future and stuff like that. So it was really interesting. And then
And I didn't know about. So there's a thing when you're doing spirit communication over technology that apparently they can kind of influence through devices. I wasn't fully aware about. I hadn't done anything through a computer as far as like paranormal. I'd always done it in person. Well, everybody that watched the live, I go to bed and was like, that was really cool. I'm glad I caught that. We go to bed, and then I wake up to a bunch of messages from everybody that was in the live. Like, what the absolute hell was that? Like, worst night of my life, like, nightmares, like, somebody woke up with scratch marks. Amy had this creepy experience.
so I've always been very sensitive. I've always been able to see spirits my whole life. And I had, it was like around like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Well, that whole night I just felt heavy. And then I went to bed. I got the baby back to bed and everything, did the whole mom thing. And then around 4 or 5, I woke up. And right before I woke up, I had something pull my hair, the back of my hair, like took it like a fistful of my back, all of my hair. Like I just yanked it really hard. Like I jolted awake, and then I saw something in the corner crawling at me, like with his head like moving, like it was nothing I've seen before. It's like Coraline on steroids, and it was just nasty. And zero, you know what, about a baby being next to me. Like it did not care. It crawled right over us, and it was mean. And then it started chasing the cats, but it wasn't like a spirit I've ever like encountered before. It was like evil.
Yeah, it took a full 360.
Like very malicious.
So prior to us doing the seance, like I'd had like slightly concerning, but like kind of normal, like poltergeist activity. And then after that, it kind of turned, and so it kind of, if you're familiar with the Annabelle doll, it gave me that kind of a vibe where like I'm this cute little child spirit, and like I'm gonna give you a whole story, and then
So when
it just flipped.
when it started crawling at me, one thing I do remember, because it's been a while since that happened. I think it was like, it wasn't, I don't think it was 3 months ago. I think it was like 6 months ago, like 7 months ago. It was a while ago.
It was almost October of last year, I think.
Yeah, it was quite a bit ago. One memory I do have of it, that I grabbed it by the throat in bed because it was going towards my child, and this spirit didn't care. Like it like laughed at me. And then it just went and did its own thing, started chasing the cat's skin. But it was just like playful, malicious behavior, basically. And it, Nico will get later on to other stuff we started experiencing.
Yep. And we started having, like, people were sick, people scratches, and so I sat down with one of my friends, and I was like, hey, look, this doll's not what I thought it was. It is haunted. And, but what it said was attached to it is not what it is attached to this. And so I go on video with them, show them the doll, and it's like, okay, what the hell's going on with this thing? And we kind of determined that it was some kind of like a wraith, which is like an aggravated spirit. And then we went into the like, okay, well, how to get in that? Well, I tore the doll apart, so it's a soft body doll. I took the wire off, pulled the ceramics off, and inside the doll was hair. like human hair and baby teeth. So my assumption was that somebody ritualistically created this doll. So they bought a vintage doll and then went through a ritual to put a spirit into the doll. Which normally we think of haunted objects, we think found haunted objects, where it's like, oh no, this weird thing's happening. It's this object. You can make haunted objects. I don't recommend doing it unless you know what you're doing, but they didn't label it appropriately, which was annoying.
There is a whole business around putting spirits into objects. I can't remember what it's called, but a lot of it's like jewelry and things, and like people, and people will have like a whole. They'll curate all different manner of spirits, from the most baneful to the most benevolent, and they'll attach them to these things that essentially become like amulets, and they will sell for top dollar. Okay, I just had to interject with that.
Well, that's exactly why I kind of got interested into it, because I had friends who collect haunted objects. And I was like, that seems really cool. I'm fairly experienced as a practitioner. It really shouldn't be a problem. I've been through paranormal investigations. I thought I was fairly well equipped for it. Well,
it was like my whole house got so heavy, like you could barely like breathe in it, if you know what I mean. Like it was a very dark spirit, and Nico started getting really sick.
Yep.
He's like messaging me and telling me that he has like a really bad migraine. He is sick in the shower. Like he's getting really emotional about it. I can't sleep. I'm not sleeping at all.
You didn't sleep for a week?
I felt like a heavy like presence with me. Even if it wasn't with me, it was like at Nico's. It was so weird. But it was just like I was being like suffocated and smothered in like this darkness, and I had to heavily go into like protection mode because I have small children and children who do have abilities. So like I started stuff in window fields, everything. Like my house was like locked down, and I still felt the heavy presence. It helped a little bit, but it was still there. It was just
they scared her so bad that she wanted to sleep with her. She has a king size bed.
It's not that it scared me. It's that I'm home alone with 4 kids, and I can only be in so many places at once. And I have children who are very sensitive to the spiritual world, so I can't be there for all of them. So I needed another stronger presence there. And I'm looking at you, I'm like, you've been a high priestess for this long, like maybe the spirit would like not try to do like anything crazy if I have another adult in the room, you know?
Yep.
Another witch, so.
Exactly.
So I ended up essentially unmaking this doll and then performing an exorcism on the actual doll itself. Because I'd have assistance doing this. I had a migraine so bad for 3 days straight that I sat in my shower and cried. I had been sick to my stomach. I was begging my husband to bring me a toaster when I was in the shower. Like, that's how much pain I was in. And it was after I made the decision that, I'm going to get rid of this doll, but I'm going to get rid of it how you're supposed to. I'm not just going to throw it away. I'm not going to give it to somebody. I'm getting rid of the spirit. And so we went ahead and did that. It took us about 3 hours to complete the ritual to remove the spirit and to send it off. And after that, we did our cleansings and things started to lighten up, but it kind of left a little bit of a scar, like that spiritual PTSD where it's like, I got in over my head a little bit, and for a couple months after that, whenever I saw one of those creepy little dolls, I wanted to drop kick it. And it does not help that I work in a senior center.
And
all of these little old ladies like to collect these porcelain dolls.
Did you go over the ghost box session you had with the doll after The first
Oh yeah,
incident.
in between me getting rid of the doll and that video, I did another spirit box session, and it was like, Amy, I like her. Let's talk. Like it was just obsessed with Amy, and it's
It
like I
like said something
like
along the lines like, did I scare you? And I'm like, what the, you know?
did I scare you? Can we talk again? Like just like being gross, and we got rid of it, and we both cleansed our spaces.
And I haven't
And
done a paranormal live since. I'm like, I think I'm okay. Like people were having experiences. Like it
yeah,
wasn't just
people that
Nico and I. People who attended my live was having experiences at their home.
we had 9 or 10
Negative
people
experiences.
who were having remote poltergeist activity, which was something that I didn't even consider as a possibility when you're doing a paranormal live like that, like on a live stream. That like I didn't think to warn people, maybe you should protect your space
Or leave the live.
or leave the live. Like this is gonna like it could transfer. Didn't even consider those as possibilities, and come to find out, it's a thing.
Yeah. People were
So
coming up
any
to me crying. They were
any
contacting me crying, saying, Amy, what do I do? And they were contacting Nick too, going, what do I do? Like in tears, going, I'm scared to sleep. It wasn't just like Nico and I, which was so crazy.
Any thoughts, you guys, on our guest panel, Jody, Tiff, and B2? Any thoughts on this? Any comments?
Well, it sounds like you definitely brought home a demonic entity.
Yep.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm glad you were able to
Nip it in the butt.
to banish the thing. That's really good. The most luck I've ever had with that, I've never had to do a full on exorcism, but the most luck I've ever had when dealing with really nasty critters like that is appeasement. So like I'll pull out my cards or I'll just sit down and try to connect psychically with the spirit and say, all right, what is it that you want? Like what do you like? Do you like alcohol? Do you like coffee? Do you like tobacco? Like what do you like? And just start giving it little offerings, like a couple times a week. I've noticed that helps to, can I cuss on this? To chill them the F out. That's helped. And another easy little thing I do is a bowl of vinegar is really good at sucking out the bad energy of the room. I'll take a bowl of vinegar and set it right where the hub of the activity is at.
I felt like this thing, I think it wouldn't have been happy with that. I think it just wanted Nick and I.
Yeah.
I tried saging after we had that spirit box session, and everybody like woke me up like, hey, this thing's screwed. And I tried to sage, and I was like, okay. Like it calmed down for a couple days, and then I did a spirit box session. It's like, okay, like let's see if it's gone. And it was still gross.
And it was still doing.
So we're like, okay, sage isn't gonna work on it. So I dug through my stuff and I was like, okay, I have this exorcism to get rid of a spirit, but I was at such a state that like
when was it the first time you done it?
It wasn't the first time I'd done an exorcism on like a place or an object.
Mm-hmm.
But with me having a migraine like that, I just wasn't like kind of at my top. So I needed help doing it. So I contacted a friend that does spirit work quite regularly. Their family actually specializes in dealing with haunted objects. So they procure haunted objects and then work on containing spirits and then seal them in objects. So they were a fantastic candidate for that. And it took us about 3 hours of going through doing these exorcisms and getting the spirit to like get out of this doll. And then I burnt most of the doll in a ritual fire.
You still
So
have the head, don't you?
I still have the head of the doll. Yeah, I kept it as a trophy.
You can show everybody. I'm just not going to look at it. Okay, because I have
That
trauma.
PTSD.
I have some trauma.
Okay, Amy, here's your warning.
Okay, I'm covering your box right now. Just don't enlarge yourself.
So here's our doll. Um, it has functional eyes. The doll itself was from 1926. Was when it was made, and I don't know if you can see that, but it has real teeth. Those aren't porcelain. Those are somebody's baby teeth. I don't like it. I want to turn it into a plant pot or something.
That's a good thing to do.
But I was told I went on Liveco last week, and we got on the subject of like hauntings, and I showed my friend my doll head, and come to
Was it
find
the
out,
dragon girl?
yep, it has something attached to it again. I don't. It doesn't seem malicious, but it's just a spirit vessel at this point.
Oh, yeah, because she was bringing it up to me, and I'm like, can we not like talk about it? She goes,
Yeah.
oh, what? I'm like, I'm the person, one of the people it attacked, and we don't go up to people who've been like abused and like just keep bringing it up. And she's like, oh, sorry.
But she hasn't asked me about it. Like,
Well, it was just like they were giggling about it, and I'm just like,
oh yeah,
not funny. Like if you went through what I went through, it's not that funny.
Told you not to mess with it.
Your
Oh,
dad.
no.
And it wasn't just like me. It was like something
was, like,
happened to
10
you,
people.
Nico, which really like
that really
because I
surprised
love
me.
you so much because you're my cousin, and that really affected me too because it wasn't just me going through it was you going through it, and we went through something that was like
That's
crazy.
the thing that's like, and looking back on it, I should have seen the red flags after I purchased the doll
Mhm.
because it was in a like spare trap in a cupboard that's blessed. Could not have done anything unless I opened that cupboard and pulled it out. And this thing was running across my bed. It knocked things off of shelves. I was hearing knocking outside of my bedroom window, and I'm on the second floor.
Yeah,
Like
because you
it's
were
able
telling
to
me
drop.
before that you felt something crawling on you, but you didn't
Yeah,
like
something
thought it was
crawled
that.
across my bed, and I have like a couple rules with the house spirits. Don't mess with me while I'm sleeping. We have business hours, which is like from like 5 o'clock to like 10 o'clock at night, and then weekends like from like 10 a.m. to like 9 p.m. Like
Wow.
if you need something, you can interact with me during these time periods. Otherwise, I don't want to see or hear you. I am not
Well,
available for communication.
okay, well, let's go on to B2. Um, she has a very interesting story where she used to work at. So I would love to hear the story. I'm dying to hear the story ever since she said she has it.
Yeah, I actually have a few stories from where I've worked. I was a third shift security guard when I was in college, so I got to be alone in a lot of very old buildings, very interesting buildings, like at all hours. And I was in, I thought it was normal for a while to just feel like you were being watched or like you weren't alone in these buildings. And I learned, oh, that's kind of that's a ghost thing. Okay. So the most interesting one I think was a medical school in Iowa that had a lot of history to it. Like one of the halls was a Catholic girls' school in the 1880s. One of the halls was an old Masonic temple that they had purchased. One of them was a funeral home. A woman I worked with, who was another guard, said, "Oh yeah, I remember going to a funeral here in the 60s." So just all kinds of weird stuff. Just we would see one of my coworkers saw a girl in the hallway on the third floor of the Catholic girls' school. They said there was a nun wandering around, and the legend is that she hung herself from the bell tower. I don't know if I say that on YouTube, but she unalived herself in the bell tower, allegedly, according to legend, and people would always see this nun walking through the third floor, and I was constantly like creeped out on that floor. I kind of rationalized it. Okay, I'm guarding this place. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm protecting it. So that's how I kind of dealt with it a lot. At one point I was in the mansion. There's a mansion attached to it too. And I had my ponytail like this, looking at some antique swords because the owners would collect all kinds of stuff from just all over the world during their travels back in like 1900. And I felt my ponytail just flip back. I didn't even move. It just flipped behind me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go over there now. So just a lot of creepy stuff, and the Masonic Hall was just very definitely an interesting place. And that's like I said, there's just a lot of different things. They had, because it's a medical school, they had Cuban remains there. A couple people didn't want to work there because of that. It was just lots of different energies, lots of different history, just so much stuff that was, you just felt it all at the time.
Wow. How long did you work there?
I'd say like about a year, I think. It's been a while. It's been about 20 years, I'd say, but it was quite a while. And like I said, there were just some places I'd go in there and I'd just like, okay, I'm not alone on this floor. I'm gonna do my rounds, go back, and someplace where it's a little less busy. And yeah, and the fact that there was just they collected all these antiques. They had like swords from Asia. They had like antiques from all over the world. Who knows? Like, speaking of the objects having things attached to it, who knows what was part of that too? I mean, these were the real deal from like previous century. So,
did your coworkers have any experience too, or just you?
I had one. My coworkers had some. Like, some people didn't know the story about the third floor with the nun, and they were like, "There's a nun on the third floor." It's like, "Oh, you saw her? What?" And like I said, another woman, she said she saw a little girl rocking in a chair back and forth in the hall, and then she was gone. And it's like, well, this was a girls' school, so and it's in an old part of the city too. So there's also in a couple of ghost story books that I've had of like Iowa ghost stories, one of the frat houses I think is haunted too. I was never in there because it's it's private home, but there's, if you look around, there's a couple, like if you look at Iowa ghost stories things, there's a couple places that they mention, the Masonic Hall. I mean, there's literal ritual rooms in there from when the Masons were there, and then there's the frat house, and just a lot of history, a lot of antiques from all over. There's a Buddha statue there from like Japan in the 1100s. I mean, just so much going on as far as like spiritually, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Wow. Iowa has a lot of haunted places. So, the 13 Steps, which I think is like in Des Moines, there's something about there's like 13 steps going down but not going up, or vice versa, something like that. And the Axe House,
Mm-hmm.
Sukia. I've never been there, but I want to go there.
Yeah,
I would
same
like
here.
I like to spend the night there and just kind of pick up things. Yeah, Iowa has quite a few places, but then again, every place, every state has its history, though.
Yep.
Because museums has different objects, like like you said, things can go into the objects and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I was there like in the middle of the night. There'd be a thunderstorm in the middle of the night. There'd an alarm go off. We had to go into that 1920s Masonic Hall, and it's like, okay, going in, coming out, not going to stay too long. If I could do a show and tell, I actually have a book of the guide to Iowa haunted places. I got it from when I lived in Wisconsin, and it's like a guide of any place you can go. They're public places to see haunted stuff. So this is a nice
Is
little
that
book since you mentioned that.
for the United States only, or just for Iowa?
Yeah, I have an Iowa one, I have an Illinois one, I have a Wisconsin and a Minnesota one.
Oh
I
my
think they're
God.
doing a Missouri one. Yeah, it's a whole series. It's the Unexplained Press by Chad Lewis. I can put the information in the group if you want.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I'm not trying to not being paid by them or anything. I just thought,
That's
these are
okay.
places you can actually go. They try and go only like public places. They don't do private property or anything. Like don't trespass. And they do their homework too. They're like, okay, did anyone actually live in this house? Did anyone die at this place? They try and sift out the folklore from the history, and I appreciate that.
I love that.
Yeah. I do too. We need to start a within the Cauldron Paranormal group. Where we're all going to go on ghost hunts.
Maybe I'll make a paranormal chat
Oh, well, yeah.
where we can share, like, because I love going to local haunted locations. I posted a couple of videos about it.
Mhm.
I found one that's down by my parents' house that was really interesting. There's an axe murder house that's about 5 minutes away from my parents' house, and they turned it into the town hall. Weird as hell to do, but
Hmm.
I wouldn't go down there and go poke around. What it was an old one bedroom school or old one room schoolhouse, and the teacher had a psychotic episode, and she had 5 students, and she hacked them up, and then in some fit of psychosis, dismembered them and buried their hearts under the floorboards, and then buried the rest of them under a bridge nearby that's called Rainbow Bridge after the children. And supposedly you can hear heartbeats when you go to this bridge at night. You'll hear a humming noise and a heartbeat when you're on the bridge. So I kind of want to go there. And then I've been to the Devil Staircase here in Omaha. It's just north of us, about 20 minutes, which is kind of like the 13 stairs in Iowa. It's 214 stairs. It's this big, huge quarter-mile staircase. And supposedly you go up the stairs and count and come back down and count, and the number is supposed to change every time. If you
Mhm.
get the same number, you're supposed to meet a man at the bottom of the stairs who's supposed to be a
Yeah.
devil. And the
Mhm.
devil's supposed to grant you whatever you want if you get the correct number.
Yep.
We tried it, and we all got different numbers. I went with me, my husband, and our other partner, and we all had very different numbers. And it's a huge hill, by the way. It is like a quarter-mile uphill, 45-degree angle hill, like huge, nasty staircase. And I am a chubby man. It was cool, but a very unpleasant walk.
I bet. Wow. Well, Jody, I know you have some stories to tell us. Why don't you tell us some of your stories?
All right. Well, I'll start with the first one that ever got me interested in the paranormal. I was only 12 years old, and uh, my mom's friend needed a babysitter, so I agreed to babysit. So I went to her house, and I think he was 2 years old at the time, and it was it's a nice two-story brick house, and just me and him there, and we were watching some cartoons on the TV, and he was kind of bouncing around the couch, and the couch was right by like a big bay window. And he just kind of stops and he's looking outside and he's like, "Well, who's that? Who's that?" And I look out the window and there's nobody out there. I'm like, "Yeah, there's nobody out there, kid. Sit down, watch cartoons with me." And maybe 2 minutes later, like all the power in the house went out. Um, Me being 12 years old, I'm not uh not know too much about electrical and stuff at this point, but I did know where the fuse box was. And once you open, there's a basement door, and right in front of you is the fuse box, and then the stairs went down to the side. So I've got the flashlight, and I'm looking at this fuse box, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, I heard like a little rustling at the bottom of the stairs beside me. So of course, naturally, when I turn the flashlight and I see like this fog or mist or something like down at the bottom of the stairs, like all around it. And I kept hearing the shuffling, and I was like, nope, I'm done. So I ended up um, I was actually babysitting in one town and we lived in a different town. So I ended up calling my mom and I'm like, all right, we're going to be sitting out here on the curb waiting for you to come pick us up because I'm done. I'm not going to stay here. And my mom, after all that happened, she was telling me about some of the experiences that her and this child's mom had in the house. And just a lot of crazy stuff that they didn't want to let us kids know about. And of course, I found out my own way. But yeah, that's what led me into having that interest in the paranormal realm and everything. But yeah, and then gosh, what Ghost Hunters when that was on TV for a while, that was I every week religiously was watching that and just gaining education from that because I didn't know where else to go at that point. Um and then gosh, I can't remember what year it was. Early 2000s. They actually had so taps on Ghost Hunters. They have affiliates throughout the country and iPart, which was a group in Des Moines, was a TAPS affiliate at the time, and they hosted a boot camp training to kind of for anyone that was interested in becoming investigators. They could kind of give you a little more knowledge than what like the average person has. So my husband at the time and I actually went down and did the boot camp training and um, we learned a lot from them and then got to hear their stories and everything. And then we just went up here in Iowa, we just went to like cemeteries and stuff and did investigations in the cemeteries. And um, I did capture one EVP that I think I still have somewhere. I'd have to find it. Um, and then when I moved down in 2009, I moved down to Georgia. And just so happened that my mother-in-law worked with someone who was in a paranormal group. So we got to talking a little bit and she introduced me to her and I ended up joining it was South Georgia Paranormal Investigators. And I was only with them for 5 months or so because we ended up moving back up this way. But um I went on a few investigations with them down there. And I guess I wasn't really the one to fit in down there because they were more try to prove that there is a haunting. And I was more, well, if there's another explanation, then, I'm going to go with that. So, yeah, I don't know. I just I didn't fit in with the group, but I got the experience at least. And now that I'm back up here, I haven't really, there's nothing in my area and I haven't done much of anything lately, but I still have that interest there. So that's me.
Well, you never know. We might, within the cauldron, we can do some silly things at times. We just kind of come up with something. Mostly I do. And I was like, I dragged the kids in, like, hey, mom wants to do this. And I kind of drag them
Yeah.
into it. So, but yeah, I'm definitely interested in going on adventures, ghost
Oh yeah.
hunts, whichever
Oh,
you
I've
want.
I've got a from watching, the shows and stuff, I've
Yeah.
got a long list of places I want to visit.
Yeah. Well, I guess we went to the East Coast just about about not even 2 weeks ago. We've been back.
Yep.
We was there for 2 weeks. So we went to Salem, Massachusetts, my second home. Went to New Hampshire, my other second home, and to Maine, which is my new second home. I love the East Coast. And if you haven't been there, you have to go. So anyway, we went to Lizzie Borden house. And Nick, do you have those pictures I sent to you?
Yes, 1 second.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to show you. You might want to show it one picture at a time so I can explain. Otherwise, they're going to see a bunch of pictures of what's that. So, this picture here is a monument in the graveyard of Lizzie Borden's family. So, buried here is the whole family. Next picture. Okay, so this is an offering plate that is between Lizzie and her sister's Emma. As you can tell, they dump this plate out almost like every 2 days because it gets really filled up with everything. A lot of people just donates anything they want. Next picture. Okay. This is Lizzie's gravestone or tombstone, wherever you want to call it. Gravesite. Her real name was Lisbeth. So she was written by Lizzie, though. But this is where she was buried at after she died. She, after the murders and stuff, and she was acquitted, she lived in Fall River, Massachusetts, where the murders took place at. So, oh no, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. Excuse me. No, it was Massachusetts. Never mind, Massachusetts. And she lived in the same town, but she bought a mansion after she was acquitted, and then she died in the same town too, as well. Okay, next picture. This is our sister's Emma grave, right beside hers. That's where the plate is in between their graves. So, and Emma was, I think 10 years older than Lizzie. She was quite older than Lizzie. Okay, the next pictures are just a gravesite. This is Andrew, her dad's. And the next one will be Sarah's. This is her mother's. And that is just another, this is the back side of the monument. This is the coffee shop that's next door to Lizzie. It's supposed to be a very haunted coffee shop where they were hear axe movements, like somebody's cutting. So it's kind of like an axe, how you hit an axe against wood or something, kind of like that chop. So they would hear that. They would hear whispers in the coffee shop, and this is a sign that I thought was kind of cool. I know. You probably say, cool, yeah. But no, it's supposed to be Lizzie with the axe. And they have it on the sign, which I thought was pretty awesome.
The city has it up.
So, and this was outside of her house. And the next picture should be her house.
I didn't get a picture of the house. That was the last one.
Oh, okay. Let me send you a picture real fast if I can. Oh, I don't know. Where's my phone at? Okay. I guess I won't be able to see that right now. You can always look at. Oh, I always send it to you, Nick, and you can put it up real fast.
Hopeless girls never learn how to do stuff.
Oh, did you hear that, Nick? Saying women are hopeless because we don't know how to do our stuff. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna send it to you if I can find it real fast. Um, Let me see. And now I have. Oh, I guess I don't have it. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I don't. I thought I did. Oh, here's one. Okay, Nick, I'm sending you this one. I will explain about the adventures that we have, that we had. When we first went to the Lizzie house, they give you the ghost box, the EVP, and dowsing rods. Okay. With this picture, this was from the basement. Can you guys see a face in that cement? That is, yeah, this face has been there ever since they start taking tours. So, okay, you can go back to regular now. um, but anyway, that was down in the basement. Okay, so when you first go in, they give you all these ghost boxes, EVPs, dowsing rods, and you go into the kitchen first, and then is the dining room, which where Andrew was killed at on the sofa. It has a dummy there, with a bloody sheet over his face and everything. And then is the dining room. The dining room has pictures of the autopsies of Andrew. So, how morbid is that? I mean, really, somebody dies in the house, his spirit is there. He has to look at these horrifying pictures of himself, you know, with an autopsy. I mean, there's like 6 of those pictures on the dining room table.
Oh.
Very morbid. But and then is the parlor, is the next room, and then the stairs. So when we went there, they had us in 2 groups. One group went downstairs, one group stayed upstairs. The upstairs where the bedrooms are at, people was staying there because you can stay at the Lizzie house and experiment overnight experience. We couldn't because it was all packed. But taking the tour itself was really good. I first started out with the EVP and the dowsing rods. The dowsing rods did give me some answers, yes or no. My son and his girlfriend felt something off the bat. Something touched their leg, touched their face somehow. I could not feel anything. And I was like, okay, that's kind of strange. Usually I do. So I went to the dining room and the dowsing rods, I was saying, okay, are these pictures of you, Andrew? And they say, yes. And I go, do you like these pictures being here? No. I go, do you want me to turn them over? Yes. So I turned 2 of them overs because it was like, if I was a spirit, I wouldn't want to see a picture of myself. And it was kind of like disrespect. And so I turned them over. And it felt a bit lighter. There was 2 kids that was killed in the house, not by Lizzie, by her neighbor, Liza. Liza was a neighbor that killed her kids because she went crazy. Some said it was due to the house that was next door, that the spirits made her crazy, and she killed 2 of her kids there. So the kids was everywhere. I did not feel the kids as much as my son's girlfriend did. She said she did. In the parlor, we had somebody who said there was a medium. She probably was 25, 26. And, you know, she may have been a medium, she may not. You know, the reason I say may not is because she said she was going to go under and get some messages. Okay, well, how she went under was not the way that I was taught to go under, and it was just way too fast. She went under, she said, oh, she was answering, or, answering questions and stuff. Asking questions, and there was answering those questions. And then she says, okay, I'm done. And she just came out just like that. She just said, okay, I'm done. Which was kind of strange to me. And then she said, oh, they just pushed me. And she kind of tripped like. And it was so funny. The ghost box says, we didn't trip you. Clear as day. It's like the spirits was just telling us, no, she's lying. We didn't trip you. We didn't talk to you. So that was kind of funny. But we heard things like drop, like water dripping. We went down to the basement. We saw that face on the inside the wall, like. And then we went to a seance room. My son did talk to a man who said he was Andrew, which it could have been, and everything. In the meantime, I wasn't really feeling anything at all. Only thing I was hearing was whispers as release us, release us, release us. That's the only thing I was hearing, which I'm like, this is really strange. I haven't been to too many haunted houses. Okay. So it was like, okay, this is kind of strange. So when my son and my daughter-in-law, well, his girlfriend, fiance, was going to the next room to investigate, they asked if I was coming. I said, no, not yet. I want to be by myself in this room. So I was by myself in this room with the ghost box and EVP and everything. And I thought, okay, I'm asking questions, and I said, if you don't want to answer me, that's fine. But I like to know some information. So I asked if they would talk to me. And the EVP ran off, all the way up to the last little dot, which was supposed to be yes, according to the tour guide. So I was asking questions of, how many's here? And then I only heard 4. And I'm like, okay, 2 kids. Are the 2 kids here? And it's like, yes. I go, okay. How about Liza, the mother, if she's here? It was a yes. And so the next one I asked, I go, so the next one, are you Andrew or Lizzie or Emma or Abby? Who Abby and Andrew got killed. And I got to know. So I'll go, okay, it says Uncle John. Because Lizzie's mom, Sarah, had a brother named John who was there the night before the murders happened. And if you follow the storyline, there's a few stories out there, movies and everything. Uncle John wanted some money, and Andrew would not let him have the money. He had an alibi, but it wasn't really strong alibi or anything. But back then, they didn't have the system that we have now. So, anyway, I'm like, okay, so where's Andrew and Abby? Where's Lizzie and Emma? Don't know. I'm like, so you're the only one here that is associated to the house? They said yes. And I'm like, well, who wants to be released? I didn't get no answer. And then I got this woman's voice, release me, release kids. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't release you. Okay. At least not by myself, not with a bunch of people around or anything. So we went to the cemetery, and the cemetery over on Lizzie's grave, it was like she was innocent. It's just like she felt she was innocent. It felt that she was happy. She was free. Emma was about the same way. You go across Andrew's grave and you just feel like a darkness, just evil. It was really strange. Sarah's grave, which is the mother that passed away before Lizzie was about 10, I think it was. She felt hurt and everything. But you can see some orbs in the graveyard, which I wish I would take a picture of because it was kind of pretty. And the reason why I said it was kind of pretty because you had 3 orbs that was like just following each other around. It was nice, soothing, happy feeling, and it just landed over Emma's and Sarah's and Lizzie's grave, like it was them. So that is the story I have about Lizzie's house. We was going to go to the Conjuring house, but if you heard the news, there's a lot of static around the house and the touring and everything. So we just stuck to the Lizzie's house. So, but it was pretty interesting. I liked it. It was an experience. One thing, we stayed behind. Mostly, I'm the type of person that's like, let's stay behind. Let's be the last people to go. Because usually the last people to go gets more information. Well, the tour guide told me that the person who owns the Lizzie house also owns the Axe house in Iowa. And the Uncle John died in Iowa, not to about 30 minutes from the Axe house. I don't know if maybe 2 and 2, put 2 together, what's going on. But it just seems like the same person owning both houses, both Axe houses, and that the Uncle John is only like 30 minutes away. What is going on? There's probably more to the story on that. So, and the one who owns both houses, he ghost hunter Lance. I can't think of his last name, but he owns both houses. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I put too much things into it. But now I want to go to the Axe house. So, what do you guys think? Talk to me.
I was looking it up. It's about an hour from my house.
Is it?
It's a little about an hour, hour 15 minutes away from me. Because I have a friend that I went to high school with that he drives through Iowa for work, and he's like, I passed this house like 50 times. Because he
Wow.
travels the highway going, passes the exit, and he's like, I had a trip where I had a load that I didn't, or I couldn't drop off till the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, so I parked it, and I went to the axe house and went through it, and he's like, it was cool. The paranormal group that I used to
Hmm.
go around with did go to the murder house. From what they were saying, the attic upstairs has the like a super super heavy energy that you don't feel like you can move very easily. It's just really thick up there, very oppressive, and they stayed the night up in the attic because that's the fun place.
Yeah.
And they had a whole bunch of activity. They had EVPs. Uh, it was a really cool experience from what I heard, and I'm kind of upset that I didn't get a go on that one. But I had to work the following morning, so I couldn't stay overnight. So I skipped
Hmm.
it.
We may have to make a trip there
hmm
because it may be halfway between your house and my house.
hmm And there's a couple. There's a couple around too, because there's a few in Davenport. Um, there's a haunted cliff in Burlington, and then there's a couple through Iowa, and then the one that's right next to me because I'm in Omaha, Squirrel Cage Jail in Iowa, which I've been to. I haven't been on a haunted tour. We just went through a history tour of it. Interesting though is my dad's family was Sheriff Jimmy, the guy who ran Squirrel Cage Jail.
Oh.
Some dad's ancestor used to work in the jail. And then I met a friend who got a picture of Sheriff Jimmy at the Squirrel Cage Jail as an apparition standing
Mhm.
um, in front of some of the bars. And I thought that was absolutely cool because we were at one of the metaphysical shops and talking about ghosts, and
Mhm.
he they introduced me to this guy and I was like, oh, he's a paranormal investigator. And he's like, I just got done doing the Squirrel Cage Jail and I have some really cool photos. So we're going through swapping photos and it's like, it was so cool. He had a full body apparition. And I
Wow.
showed him a couple I had from work and a few of the others I got. And it was fun. I love seeing pictures of ghosts and orbs. And
Yeah. Same here. I do. How about the rest of you guys? What do you guys think?
Velisca's definitely on my list of to-go places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same
And
here.
then Edinburgh Manor down in Jones County, close to Monticello, is another one that's on the top of my list since
ooh,
it's close by.
Wow. We definitely need to start a team. Team
You
of
know
ghost
me.
hunters.
I'm all for it.
you just have to go with protections. I mean, you
Yeah.
want some, but you don't want to go crazy. Because if
Yeah.
you go too many protections, you're probably not going to experience much.
Right.
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 So it's that catch 22 of like, okay, I want
Yeah.
enough that I'm not going to get hurt, but I don't want too many that I can't experience anything.
Yeah. I'll get everybody some bracelets, some
hmm
protection bracelets to wear. And of course, I did too. Of course, I have my pinnacle too. So
hmm
I was pretty protective. I think when I first walked in, I didn't feel, I couldn't feel anything for at least about 20 minutes. And I think it's because maybe my guardians was like really guarding me.
Mm.
Because you know how you say your protection prayer before you go in and everything. So I tend to probably overdo it at times of asking for protection. So when I kind of lift up my shields, I'm like, okay, let me just experience something here. I mean, after I paid for it and I want to experience something, then yeah, I did. Um, you know, I would definitely sleep in the house. I didn't feel that threatened or anything. Um, I didn't feel like there was a lot of spirits there, just four. Um, so it's an experience that you should probably go to if you have a chance in Massachusetts. Um, I think it's kind of like overrated
Mm.
at times because usually when there's a scary house, everybody just like, oh, you got to go in there, you have to experience this and that. And um, sometimes I just think that it's going to be left alone, even if they are in there, you know, especially when I felt like the mother and the two children was like, release us. We just want to go on. We don't want to be stuck here. And then you have Uncle John, who's just like, I'm here and I want this to happen, you know. And it's like he wants, it's like, it was really strange. It was like he wanted everybody to experience something there. And it's like for greed, even though he's dead, he's like maybe for greed. Um, and that's why when they said both houses was owned by the same guy, I'm like, maybe he's a descendant from Uncle John. So I don't
One
know.
thing that goes a lot with a lot of haunted places is that there's like ethics of like, okay, this may be somebody's income, but
Mhm.
you have to look is which is the morality with the spirits. Like, are they happy? Are they stuck here? Can we do something about it?
Yeah.
And they have consciousness. It depends on the type of haunting that's in the
Mhm.
location too.
Yeah.
Because if they're like a sentient, like trap spirit, like of course I'm gonna. If they want to move on, I'm gonna try to help them. But if
Yeah.
it's just echoes stuck in the walls, it's. I mean, you can cleanse it, but if somebody's making money off of it, I don't see a whole lot of harm in that. It
Yeah.
it just depends on the circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
It
that's what
does.
uh, I do here is that if somebody's got paranormal activity and they don't want it in their home any longer, I go in and I help remove the spirit, whether I release the spirit on the location or we trap the spirit and then
Mhm.
take it out of the location and deal with it after, depending on what it's done. Um, we did that earlier this year. I have a friend that bought a house. It was from 1880, and the previous owner had taken his own life. He was a Marine,
Oh.
and he took his life in the basement, had a cinder block room, and he used a firearm to do so. And they're like, the basement's awful. He was grabbing kids, like scaring people,
Mhm.
like leaving hand marks on people. And it was like he wasn't a happy spirit. And what we ended up doing is the bullet was still in the wall.
Oh.
So we drilled out that part of the cinder block and took the bullet out, and then put him in a spirit trap and took him out of the house, took him down to the cemetery, released him, and they've been fine ever since.
Yep.
But it was one of those where they're like, hey, he's being a problem. And, he was totally conscious of it. He was miserable in life and he decided to be a problem. And
Yeah.
I've had others where it's like, hey, this is, something bad happened here and it's just echoes and it's not actively going to hurt you. Once you know what's going on, it may be spooky, but
Yeah.
we can get rid of it or we can leave it. It's up to you.
Yeah, that's like the medium that was there. She
Hmm.
was probably about 25, 26 in college. She was kind of giddish you know. Um, but when she said, "Oh, the spirits pushed me," and on the ghost box, plain as day, it's like, "No, we didn't." And it's like, it was kind of funny, but then it's like, ooh, because she was like, rebuttal. Yeah, you did. You did push me. And the spirit's like, no, we didn't. We didn't do nothing to you. Um, so what would you guys think about that? If you ever experienced something like that where a medium says she was touched and then somebody in the vote on the ghost box says no. How would you guys kind of react to that?
From doing spirit box work, I would take it with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
So I generally try to verify more than once when doing a spirit box. So I'll do a spirit box and then do either pendulum or dowsing rods at the same time. And if I get a response and then they confirm that that was them or the spirit that I'm trying to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
you get a lot of like spirit interference because once the spirits in an area realize that there's an avenue for me to speak through, they all start jumping through this box and it gets really chaotic and it's really difficult trying to pick through like important messages versus like psychic static. And I think either that was the case or the psychic may have been talking about a previous experience, or unfortunately, there are psychic mediums that do this for money that they don't have the best intentions at hand, and they may or may not actually be what they claim to be.
Yes, some people just do it for attention. So you just really have to look out
Mhm.
for,
Yeah.
Yeah,
everyone.
like
That's part of the reason that I don't like claiming to be a psychic medium
same here.
because I don't want people to like. I'm not doing this from like a fraudulent point. Like I've seen spirits since I was a little kid,
Yeah.
and it's not like a novelty. Like it can be downright terrifying,
I
and like there's a level of trauma that like people that genuinely see spirits on a regular basis go through because they're not all always the humanoid spirits that
so
just heartache.
speaking about this, Nick, like I remember growing up, and I think my mom can even like be my witness on this because I thought I was crazy because I saw spirits my whole life. I've always dealt with them. I had an old lady at the end of my bed that would come silent at night each and every night. And I would tell my mom this. I would tell everybody this. I would know all the spirits in the house by name before anybody else would, and had information that other people didn't have. Even when my mom was pregnant with me, like when I was in her belly, she had a
Bunch of,
dream of
yeah,
her
I have
grandpa
a bunch of
away.
visions.
Yeah, and I've always just like had the gift for that, and I had shadow people, going through puberty, shadow people crawl into
Yeah.
my bed because that's when they're more like drawn to people. You're more of a lighthouse to them, and I just always had someone laying in my bed with me and a spirit laying in my bed with me, which is really creepy to say. And my mom would just peek into my room. I wouldn't be in there, and she would see like a black shadowy figure like laying in my bed, and she thought it was me, and when it wasn't me. And then she would go in there, and nobody would be there.
Mm.
And then one night, I think she was sleeping in my room, and my niece was in there, and because she was watching her, and she saw something peek out of my closet. Sorry, my throat's getting dry. And it was like little footsteps, right?
Yeah, well, there was one time when he was sleeping. I came up the
No,
stairs and
I
you had
wasn't.
your door open. Well,
I'm
you
talking
had
about the experience with Lily
oh,
when
with
you were
yeah,
watching Lily
really,
sleep.
yeah. Yeah, I was peeping out of the corner. And the closet, one
The
closet,
yeah.
she had two closet. One closet
Mhm.
was nice and warm and cozy. The other one was ice cold. Ice cold. And that's always the closet the shadow people went in and out of. And I even went in there because I'm just probably stupid. I used to go in there by myself, close the door, and I would say, "Okay, I'm here. Show me yourself." And it would just get cold and cold and colder, where it's like almost like a freezer. But I didn't see nothing until I closed the door, and then the door opened by itself, time to time. So it was just, yeah, they were there. They just didn't want to confront me.
Yeah, but that one experience, Lily was in bed with you and she kept having night terrors and she woke up
Yeah.
screaming, and then you heard footsteps going inside the bed before she started screaming.
Yeah.
And then she started screaming, and then you heard something like run into the closet and shut it and then
Into the
peek out
closet
2
and
red
shut it.
eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
like
think
really
that was
tell, but
that was the time I went in the closet by myself, because I'm just like, okay, enough is enough, and close the door, and it was
yeah.
just getting colder and colder, but no one wanted
I used to have
to.
him like jump in the shower with me, which is really crazy. I don't know if anybody else have had spirits jump in the shower with you.
I've had one while I was in the shower, like see silhouettes on the other side of the shower glass,
Mm-hmm.
and then like go open the door and think, oh, it's my partner, and then nobody's standing there, and the door's still shut, and it's just like, babe,
I've also had after my C-section, Nico, I had a spirit climb in bed with me and like was like the big spoon, kinda,
no,
And
thank
you
you.
just had like major surgery. You can't really move that well. And I have a newborn next to me because I was up nursing him.
Mm.
And I can't really move because I have a newborn. I just had major surgery. I have a lot of other complications that happen. So I'm just like in a lot of pain, not on pain medication at the time. And this spirit is just petting my hair as I'm laying there and I can't move. It's like completely, that place was so, it was our old friend Wendy's house, and it was just very haunted.
Oh yeah.
I'm having my 2-year-old tell me at the time to something that's you don't see anything in the corner, but he sees it, saying, "Don't hurt my mommy." It's wild.
Yeah, time to pull out the smoke cleansing. No,
We moved out.
Yeah.
Okay, Tiff, how about you? We saved the best for last. So how about you? Do you have any stories you want to tell us?
So, the scariest story that I have, the one that gave me paranormal PTSD, I was staying at my mom and dad's house in Keokuk, Iowa, and everybody in the house had all gone on vacation except me and one of my younger brothers, the second oldest. Okay. So I decided I'm going to sleep in my parents' room that night. They got a nice big bed. Nobody's in the house except my brother. He's got his own room. I'm visiting from college to just keep him company. And I'm in the room. And for some reason, our dog, Powerpuff, she was this Chow Husky mix. I loved that dog so much. She wanted to sleep in the bed with me. But I'm not accustomed to that. I'm more of a cat person anyway. And so the idea of like a dog who's been running around outside, running around the mud, running around the grass, wanting to lay in the bed, just I wouldn't have in it. I wish now that I had let her sleep in the bed with me, because she was adamant about it. She truly was. And I was like, no, Puff, get down, get down, get down. Well, I'm sleeping, right? And I wake up in the middle of the night to this strange feeling that there's a man standing at the foot of my bed, right? And I feel what feels like hands pushing onto the bottom of the bed, and then knees after that, like someone's fucking crawling up on me. And as soon as I try to move, like I try to sit up, and I feel all this pressure, like forcing me back down into the bed, like this unearthly pressure, like it's like the bed's trying to suck me up, right? And then, so I'm completely immobilized with this heavy, invisible man on me. And then I feel hands slowly go around my neck and they start to squeeze, and they choke the air out of me. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And then they let up. And me being, the curious person I am, I'm laying there for a second and I'm like, whoa, did that really happen? And as soon as I thought that, here comes the hands again around my neck. And I'm like, okay, whoa, stop. They let go. And I'm lying there and I still can't believe it. I'm like, I can't move. I've just been choked out twice. I'm like, what's going on? Am I dreaming? Am I having a night terror? That's when it happened for a third time. And there was no doubt about it a third time because I tried to call out for my brother Sean. And I was like, Sean, like I could barely call out to him. And I just remember thinking in my head, don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. And about the third time I thought that, that's when the hands let go for the third time and the pressure dissipated. And I sat up in bed. And I was like, oh my God, I think I was just attacked by a ghost. Like something just tried to kill me in my sleep. And it didn't because I commanded it not to. I said, don't kill me. And it left me alone. But I wasn't the only one who experienced that. My brother experienced that. After my family moved out and my sister and her husband inherited the house, my brother-in-law experienced that too. It was like the ghost was only attacking people who weren't part of the biological family, right? So me and my brother are adopted.
Mm-hmm.
My parents have 3 natural-born children, and then later on they'd go on to adopt 3 more children. So I come from a big blended family, and this spirit was only going after those of us that weren't blood
Could
related.
it be a family member, like a blood family member that's biological theirs, and they didn't accept the outsiders, basically?
My
That's
mom
kind of
swears
harsh
up,
to say, but
my mom swears up and down that it was the old owner of the house.
but why
My
would it
mom-
only be attacking the other family member, like the people who aren't blood related to them? You know what I mean?
Or the people, yeah, because I mean, my parents had the house and had 2 kids before Sean and I were even in the picture. So maybe it just got attached to them.
It could be because I have a family member that's passed for me that didn't accept me as a family member. So that's why I'm thinking, I'm like, spirits, family members can get like that.
Can get weird like that. Yeah, and it was just saying that it was Elmer was its name. Whatever. My mom was completely
also like spirits when after you pass on, even if you are a human spirit, you want to be called something else. Because you've lived multiple lives,
Or it was just lying to get my mom to trust it because my mom was like, "Oh, it's Elmer. It's such a friend. He's just old Elmer." I'm like, "Mom, it's choking out 2 of your kids and your son-in-law. Like, it's not a friendly effing spirit."
Yeah, spirits will do that. They present themselves in a different life to get your trust and to get other people's trust, and then come along and present themselves a different way, to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care what it was or who it was. I just know that it attacked me. It attacked my brother. It attacked my brother-in-law. And but I learned something very powerful from it, which is if you give a ghost a command, like if you really give it and you really mean it, I think they have to listen to it because
not always.
There's
I felt more confident after that though. I'll say that because I mean it had me at its mercy. So
that's why I think it's like a family. It has to be like a family member or something. Because if it was demonic, it wouldn't care if you like commanded it unless you had their name.
Right.
There's also if you look at like really old vampire lore from like New England, East Coast, people would report like in the 1800s that deceased people would be over their bed with the hands on their chest. And that was what they thought was like the vampire activity was. They would go to the graves and then jumble up the bones and everything. So, I mean, that's possible. I mean, that's the stories I hear that are similar. It's,
that could be
not.
So we're going to comment here from Lee. That's a great and scary story. It's... Hey.
Oh, hi, Legs.
I think anytime that you're like attacked spiritually, it's scary because like you can't see what's attacking you. It's the unseen. And you don't know exactly what it is because it could present itself in a different light and say, "This is what I am," but it's truly not that. It's something
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
You never know
Well,
what you're
for
truly
me,
dealing with until it happens.
what I don't like picking up on is some people, when they do like paranormal investigations and then get a spirit connecting with them, they always want to know, like, okay, how'd you pass on? Like, what was it like? Like, not only is that traumatic for the like sentient spirit to go through, but depending on what kind of sensitivities you have, they might just shove that on you and it doesn't feel good. Like, for me, I pick up um, tactile and visual. So I will feel the sensations of like being choked or like things getting really hot, and uh, or we'll get images of like, a fire or like somebody clutching their chest or chest pains. And it's like my least favorite thing about dealing with like the disembodied. So I try to avoid that question where I can. Is like, how did you die? I don't want to know how you die. I know you're dead.
Now, when we used to play, well, we still do. I know a lot of you may not play with the Ouija board, but we do. Especially my youngest daughter,
But
she has
I'm
a
completely
son.
against the Ouija board.
So yeah. um, but on the Ouija board, it seems like the spirit sometimes wants to tell you how they die. It's like they're not really proud of it, but they kind of like proud of it. Like, hey, I
Well,
died
I feel
that way.
like, it's just telling your story, like it's
Yeah,
traumatic for
it
them.
is. It is. It's telling this story because they've been passed for so long. So when you ask somebody to speak to, sometimes, and they just want to talk to you,
And
they just
it's
don't
like,
want to say
they haven't, you also have to look in, like, they probably haven't spoken to someone in a long time and you're giving them attention. So they want
right.
to tell their stories. It's like when you're Tiffany, I know you can connect with me when you're a stay-at-home mom and you haven't been around adults. And when you see the first adult, you just have all this word vomit that comes out of your mouth.
I see it
That's
as
how
a
I
couple
picture it.
ways. It's like ghost therapy,
Yeah.
where they're like, there's somebody I can finally talk to. Now here's all of my problems.
It's
Yeah.
like, here I am. Talk to me. I'm right here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the other side of it is like, okay, we have ghost therapy, and then there's like, I need somebody that can, like, the level of frustration that a lot of these spirits have, which is why I think that we get that poltergeist activity where things move and like they're like turning things on and off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's if you can't communicate with them, they're trying to move things as much as they can to get your attention for you to
It's
know that they're here.
it's
Yeah.
also like I kind of like imagine like one of my sons is speech delayed. It's like I just picture him like a spirit, trying to communicate to you and they can't. You can't understand them. So you're super frustrated, you're angry, you have all those emotions. Like I always try to view it in their shoes, if you know what I mean. They're not really wearing shoes, but you know what I mean? Like how they feel and how I would feel in that situation
Yeah.
and see it in their point of view on how
I've
everything is. Like I don't believe like every spirit, like I have spirits here in my house. I'm not chasing them out. I'm not saging my home going, you need to leave. As long as they respect my children and me, I'm fine with them.
Mhm.
But if they, cross the boundary and they start harming and being malicious, then they have to go. And also, I think another thing we should talk about is how like ghost box Ouija boards and how divination tools to communicate to the dead can be very addicting.
Yeah.
They can be, and even going to like psychic mediums too, like people getting taken advantage of with their grief and trying to get answers and be like, did my loved ones go where they're supposed to? Are they at peace? And there's a level of trust in the process that these spirits have gone to better places. My personal view on it is like whatever the afterlife is for you, that there's visiting hours essentially.
Mhm.
Like um, they can come back and visit as they please. If they get stuck through trauma, through a bad event, they really liked a place by their own choice, they can stay in a place. And sometimes something so traumatic happened in a location that the house remembers, and you get these recordings, and those are like the unsentient, like you see
Yeah.
a woman walk down the hall and she never does anything else. You just see her in the hall.
I had a house like that where the door would slam as we'd hear footsteps up the steps and the door would slam. It got really bad around Halloween, and then they took off the porch and replaced it, and it stopped. So that
Hmm.
was really, and we'd be all sitting around, watch the door. Nothing would happen. We'd hear it slam.
I get footsteps in my upstairs, but I speculate the previous owner, I believe, passed away in the house, and they carpeted over a hardwood floor, and there was a large stain on the hardwood floor, and I'm assuming that the person fell. And we refinished the floors and recoated them, stained them, and but I had this old lady in my house for a while, and it found a newspaper in the mailbox when we moved in that was the obituary for the previous woman that lived here, and it was weird. But it comes with the territory. I have an old house. It's from the 1930s, and I mean not old old, but old enough.
I think
And
our house is 1885, isn't
one
it?
of the ones
So
one of the ones I looked at when we were shopping for houses was in Old Bellevue, and they have some houses that survived the fire in the 1880s. So it was like an 1870s house. Absolutely gorgeous. Dirt floor basement, but it had beautiful, beautiful herringbone wood floors. And I wanted it so bad, but it it wasn't big enough. And
So,
Lisa has a good question here. Do you think spirits who can travel easily between realms are there spirits that can travel easily between realms and ones that are stuck? Yes, I think so. I
mhm,
think some spirits get stuck due to trauma or by their own choice. Like you can choose not to move on,
mhm,
Unfinished
uh,
business.
unfinished business,
right.
and then I think every spirit, unless they're choosing or like locked in a location due to trauma, can travel. I
So,
have experiences with like family members that have passed on and seeing them come around a couple times a year. Like they'll come check on you, or you'll smell their perfume, things like that. Where it's like oh, so and
I
so's here.
have
Oh, you
I
smell
have a
the cigar
story.
smoking or cigarette
Mhm.
smoking?
I have a
Yeah.
story where my grandfather,
Yeah.
it was right after he passed away. I was sleeping, but my mom and I went to bed really early because I have small children, trying to get that sleep when I can. And I had a dream where I was talking to my grandfather. I was in my grandma's living room. He was in his chair rocking it. And I was by like their lamp across the room. Tiffany, you've been in their house, their other house. So I was by like the love seat, And I was talking to my grandpa as he was rocking. And then we went through the hall, through the doorway into the dining room. You know what I'm talking about, Tiffany? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went all the way into the kitchen, and we were just talking the whole time. And my mom had the same experience during the same time. The chair rocking by itself, a shadow in the hallway where we walked through. And then we went into the kitchen, which is so weird that my mom and my dad and my grandma all had the same experience. And then I was like in there at that moment. I don't know if I was astral projecting or if he was traveling between both of us or exactly what was happening, but it
Right.
felt so real. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was right there in front of me. And then he was just telling me, give me closure. He was telling me to tell my grandma that. that he loves her and that it's okay, you know, basically. And that he misses everyone, and that was pretty much it. And we were just shitting, basically.
Yeah.
What are
But
your guys' views on that? Do you
yeah,
think that spirits can travel around? Are they stuck in a location, like to their gravesite or where they've passed? Or
I think it really depends too, because also it could be a witch that traps them,
Mhm.
you know, or it could be like we have a friend that has like a family of witches that has spirits attached to like objects and stuff. So it really depends.
Yeah.
If you
I
are an
think
unlucky spirit and you get trapped by another spirit, because that can happen, or something else that's unknown, you know, like there's so much out there that we truly don't know. But I do believe they do travel unless something happens like that.
I think it depends too, because there's certain, like I've heard of a type of haunting that's like a remnant of person. It's not their whole
Mm.
like self, it's just a remnant and they're not in the right mind. I've actually experienced that where it's like they're very angry and confused.
Yeah,
But
they're so
also,
emotional.
yeah, there's some religions where you don't have just one soul. You have like 3 or 4. Like Egyptian is one of them, where they believed you had the
Mm.
Ka, which was your body, Ba, which was the the spirit, the shadow, the name. So there could potentially be, if you have a piece of the soul that's attached to you or an image of you, like haunted pictures. I mean, who hasn't looked at a picture and kind of seen, had something behind that? At least
Mhm.
for me, anyway.
I agree
So
with that. I'm a Norse pagan, and our worldview is that there's 9 parts to a soul. So there's one that follows the family line and then can get reincarnated or acts as a guardian spirit. One moves to the afterlife. One follows the body. Your one moves freely through wherever you want to go through all the realms, and there's there's so many interesting views on the afterlife, and it it's truly like one of the great questions of the living is like what happens, where do we go, like so many speculations and theories, and it's just so fascinating.
That would be my question for Monday for the group in the cauldron. How many parts of souls in your path, or do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, the
Nick, you have to help me on that one.
I also
yeah,
believe that spirits
what's the
fracture.
soul look like for you? Yeah, you can. That's a very heavy practice in shamanism. Is
Yeah.
soul retrieval, where somebody experiences very traumatic events
Yep.
and they lose a part of themselves there, and then
I
there's a
feel
whole
like,
process of
do you,
reclaiming that.
Nico, do you believe like a spirit can fracture and then be reincarnated?
Yep. Well, that's kind of how it works in Norse paganism, because you have like an ancestral spirit that like travels through your family, and it's the Deseer, and then there's a male version, and these
Yeah.
are like spirits that are of your lineage that like travel through the families. But then there's a part of you that sought peace, and then part of you that travels around and visits people, and
Yeah.
then but they're all you. Like they're all you, but
It's just like different versions of you.
they're having different like cohesive experiences at the same time,
Yeah.
which is a really fascinating concept
I feel
of
like
like
that kind of happens when you have trauma too, as like when you're alive. It's like, you can like
Mhm.
fracture a little bit.
Well, yeah,
That
and we have evidence of that in psychology. Like you have
Yeah.
DID, which is
Mhm.
where you experience something so traumatic that your brain literally breaks, and as a coping mechanism, you gain a second coherence or more, and that you now have extra consciousness. You know, it's really fascinating.
It's like someone,
Hmm.
when something happens to you and you just get like extra sensitive. That's how.
Hmm.
there's
Well, I mean,
also
if you think about it, I don't go right ahead.
oh yeah, with the Norse thing, there's also like the fetch, which there's an equivalent to that actually in Aztec religion, where you have a part of your soul that's an animal. I've heard stories of people who like their favorite animal, they'll see it like right before they die, and then it's like, well,
Hmm.
that's the fetch or the I forget
The
what the Norse name,
Flyja, the
the
Fetch,
Flyja,
the
yeah,
familiar spirit. Yep.
yeah, and
uh
I know
And
in Aztec stuff from what my Latina friends have told me, um, in Aztec times, it was a part of your soul called the Nahuali, and now the idea is that the Nagual is what the witches send out to travel, and it's
Mhm.
an animal too. So I mean, it doesn't even have to be a human
That's interesting
necessarily.
because that there's so many because European witchcraft has the fetch and the like
Hmm.
the familiar spirit, and those generally take on the form of an animal, but also sometimes like a spirit, like an imp or something.
Hmm. Or
And
like
then
an opposite sex person. I'm told too sometimes if you see.
because the Flyja is always a female spirit, and then they can show up. Typically, you'll know what the animal is because it'll always show up for you, but to see the actual Flyja means you're about to pass. And because it's the spirit that hands you off to the Valkyrie.
Yeah.
But in Seder and Trolldom, it's the spirit that we use to carry out our witchcraft. So it's, when I go travel through like the spirit worlds, that's what I take the form of is like I travel as my Flyja. And like depending on what your Flyja is, you could be flying, you could be swimming, whatever. But it's such an interesting thing that it's shared across so many different cultures that there's this animistic aspect to a soul.
Yeah. That's going to be, yeah. Let's make that and as a Monday question to the group. Nick, you have to post a question like that to the group and see what their input is. So
That'll be fun.
it will be fun. I like the questions we ask sometimes because it makes everybody think. Even
Mhm.
though they're kind of lame and corny at times, it does make others think. And that's what I want is people to think on the question and give us an answer.
And it's good to get people to engage with other witches and other people who are spiritual and about other paths because I feel like we're
That's
always
why
learning from each other.
Yeah.
that's why we started this in the first place is like to share different traditions because we all come from different paths and different life experiences and we all have our unique brains and how we do things through experience and visualization and
Yeah.
sharing that with other people can really open doors or like help somebody understand something or it bouncing those ideas back and forth has really helped me evolve my practice.
Oh yeah.
And because like talking with people and be like, oh, this is how I do, this type of work, and be like, I never thought about doing it that way. Like, or talking to people and be like, I wonder, I had this the other day. We were talking about making egregores and using like an animal spirit and then asking their permission and then infusing that with an egregore.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, and I'm sitting there like, ooh, because they made a protective word for their home. They're a beekeeper. Made a
Yeah.
protective worm or word for their home with bees. But they made this egregore for the bees to like boost them. Where these bees, if you attempt to like psychically vampirize them or like activate them and try to like siphon off the energy, they replicate. So you make more. And it's a self sustaining cycle. And I'm sitting there like, you absolutely horrify me. But I'm writing this down because, like, ooh, I have so many ideas.
Yeah, it's almost like within the cauldron book of shadows. The
Mhm.
questions we ask, the answers we get. You could probably make a whole new book of shadows sometimes. So, uh,
Oh, yeah.
but anyway, I just also we're going to be ending this pretty soon in a few minutes. I just want to let everybody know who is out there to subscribe to the group. Um, and tell your friends, your family to subscribe to the podcast. Just subscribe, go onto the group within the cauldron. We on Facebook and Discord. We do discussions on Discord. It's going to be once a month, starting this month. We kind of miss a month there because we had to get our, eggs in a what do you call it? Ducks in a row. Yeah, ducks in a row and stuff. So, because we kind of focus on the podcast a lot and everything, and we are going to have the next 3 weeks is going to be guest. We are going to have Tish on, who is the author of Chasing Rainbows and Spell It Correctly. And she also has 2 novels out as well. And she also contributes to articles in magazines as well. She'll be here next Thursday at 8 o'clock on the 7th. On the 14th, we are going to have a pioneer. Oberon Cell is going to be here. And for those who know him, knows that he's been around for a long time. He is one of the pioneers. He's like Raymond Buckland. He's like a pioneer. And then after that, we're going to have Kelly Anna, who is a musician. She also has some books that she has written. She will be here on the 21st. On the 29th is another paranormal with some new friends, or old friends, but on a different, different panel. But we cannot do this without you guys subscribing, keeping us on, and sharing the podcast with friends and family. And I'm echoing. I'm sorry. Um, so I just want to say thank you for Jody, Tiffany, and Bichu for being here. Bichu for being here. Sorry. And thank you for your stories. We'd love to have you back as a guest panel. If you see an author you coming up and would like to be on, just give us a shout out and we'll see what we can do. In December, we also have Mike Nichols and Christopher Pensack will be here on the 19th. In January, it's going to be Selena Fox and Courtney Reber, and then Lori Bruno. So we have a good lineup for guests. It's not going to be every week, probably twice a month starting January. So we'll be doing topics or just talking to the witches. So, but once again, I just want to say thank you. Any last words from you guys?
Well, thank you for having us on.
Thank you.
Oh, of course.
If you're gonna go ghost hunting, get your banishing rituals down. The lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, is a really good one to get anything off of you. It's a good one.
Is you guys ready?
Yep, get that ready. Get that holy water ready that you can sprinkle on yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're prone to using things like Ouija boards, talking boards, spirit boards, I always I've used Ouija boards before, but I've always been fond of making my own. And you can use about any medium you need to. All you need is a flat surface and something to, as an indicator. But the thing I like about crafting your own is that you can put protective symbols and sigils on your board as well that can keep any of the nasties out, you know. So, and you can dedicate your board to like ancestor communication or something. Start out with an ancestor. Start out with an ancestor because you get that connection to a loving, powerful ancestor, and then they can act as a buffer between you and the nasties.
Yeah.
The nasties.
Yeah.
The
I always have a question for the people that you are going to have, like friends or family, ancestors. Make sure you have a question that they can answer it and only know that they can answer it. So you know that it's them and not someone else.
Yep.
Most definitely. So, how about you, B2? Do you have anything you want to say?
Not really. Just thanks for having me here. I have more stories if you want me to share them in the future.
Oh,
Of
absolutely.
course.
I have some good ones. I have one when I first started. We had no Ouija board, and I used a paper towel and a Dorito. But we will save that for the next one. Yes, I did a Ouija board with the Dorito and
We should do a
napkin.
notebook paper.
We
I
Yeah, I
were
know
in a
have
restaurant.
the next one will be on November 29th, the day after Thanksgiving, I think. So bring your leftover turkey and let's chit chat about scary stories. So, but subscribe, you guys.
Like the video, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Like, comment, subscribe, and then follow the link there on the bottom.
Yeah.
Search up Within the Cauldron on Facebook, and you will find our Facebook page, which links to our Discord, and we have a bunch of goodies in there. It's where we post most of our community stuff, and you can find us there as well.
Yeah. So, thank you everybody for being on tonight. Subscribe, like us, and you have a many, many blessings.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Stay spooky.